Do you guys want to hear a joke? League of Legends is a balanced game. Oh, and my love life. That is also a joke. Welcome back to another ProGuides video. My name is Nathan Ng, and today we're going to be talking about the 10 champions that cannot be balanced in League of Legends. Whether they are too strong or too weak, they can never seem to find the middle ground. Now before we get started, let's go ahead and tackle the question of the day. Which champion are you looking forward to the most in terms of a rework? For me personally, I cannot wait for the Fiddlesticks rework. I mean, I am a huge fan of the horror genre, and the fact that something could be lurking in the shadows or something or someone could be following you on Instagram at Nathan_ING is just terrifying. It's terrifying stuff. But what's even more terrifying than that is the fact that I decided to make a TikTok, which is the same tag as my Instagram. So if you guys want to follow me there, that would be extremely fantastic, and it would honestly mean so much to me. And if not, then no worries, you're just dead to me. But with all that being said, I hope you guys stay healthy, I hope you guys stay safe, and I hope you guys enjoy this video.
First up on the list is Akali. Well, we already know that she received a rework a while back, and for good reason too. Akali has so many different tools in her arsenal, and there aren't that many counterplay options. The best example of this is her Shroud. Again and again, Riot has nerfed it, and I'm really glad that they have. Honestly, the amount of strength it had right after the rework was ridiculous. It wasn't too long ago, so I'm certain that a lot of you guys remember that she could even avoid turret aggro with her Shroud. It's been toned down significantly since then, but it's still a pretty annoying skill to play against. First off, it makes Akali extremely difficult to kill. Her Shroud is a versatile ability, as she can use it for different things like her cooldowns and making it harder for the opponent to kill her in all-ins, or to stall for time, or just to juke out her enemies and make a daring escape. There's so much power in this ability that it feels like it breaks the rules of League of Legends sometimes. Pair this with Akali's insane mobility, spammable Q, and burst damage, and you'll end up with a champion that's basically impossible to catch and also run away from. Next, let's talk about Silas. Cool champion and actually a decent amount of counterplay, but can he ever be balanced? I don't think so. I don't blame Riot for all of this either. The concept of a champion that can steal ultimates is super cool. On a surface level, you could counterplay this by choosing champions who don't have useful ultimates for Silas like Elise, Jace, or even Udyr. But inevitably, metas will shift, and how much power can you possibly take away from him without making him unbearably weak? If champions with insane ultimates like Neeko, Ornn, or even a Mumu breaks into the meta, Silas is obviously going to be an extremely powerful pick. That counterplay still exists, but what if those champions that limit Silas's power are objectively weak in the same meta? You'd still have to shoot yourself in the foot simply to draft around Silas, meaning that Silas is a power pick. If he's OP, you'll need to take away the strength from his other parts of his kit. On the flip side, if champions with weak ultimates are meta, you'd have to give Silas some power back to keep him competent. Is this feasible? Maybe, but it definitely seems like a huge hassle, and it would definitely give the impression that Silas is problematic. Silas has been a champion who's been on the weaker side of solo queue champions for quite a while now, but Riot definitely deserves a pat on the back because they've been pushing him up to a decent spot at least. Admittedly, Silas could eventually get close or even become balanced. However, one little change to the rest of the balance of the game, or to the meta, could shift this altogether. He's extremely sensitive to changes across the rest of League of Legends cast. Okay, I feel bad about talking about her since she just broke into the meta, but it's alright. It's not like one video will suddenly cancel Calista anyway. Calista has always been an issue because she's different from the other marksmen. Anyone want to start a not like other marksmen trend? Calista gets to jump between every basic attack, which is pretty insane. To be able to simultaneously reposition yourself and deal damage at the same time is one of the strongest assets to have in the game. You can use it to kite or chase your enemies down. Sure, practice makes perfect, but how in the world can you throw a spear accurately while you're jumping? Her jumpy nature makes Calista an extremely difficult champion to lock down. Landing skill shots went from hard to nearly impossible when Calista was introduced to the game. You'll have to predict which way she'll jump or if she'll jump at all. As she builds more attack speed, these jumps become more frequent, making it even more difficult to line up that ability that you need to land. When you miss, you're usually dead as well, as Calista is able to chuck spear after spear into your body and then pull them out with her Rend. On top of this, Calista is able to pull her support out of trouble. Supporting the support is definitely a nice change of pace. Aside from Senna, you don't really get to see that too much. Calista's incredible utility has led to her development as a pick that either dominates competitive play or basically stays out of the game altogether. When she's too strong, she provides way too much for her teams to give her up. As a result, she's gone through the typical process of taking nerf after nerf until finally, she's disappeared from competitive play altogether a while back. This translated into solo queue, which is still why she remains such a low win rate. You can't make Calista too powerful or she'll dominate the rift, but if she's not strong, then it's basically impossible to play her because of her weak scaling. Next up is Tamer Kench. Originally designed as a flex pick, top lane, and support champion, you'd probably think that he came out this year. With the picks like Sona and Soraka top causing such a huge ruckus this last couple of months, I'm kind of scared to even talk about this guy. He's basically a juggernaut warden who has a lot packed into his kit. Tamer Kench has crowd control, the ability to protect his allies, an insane shield, and an ultimate that allows him to bring himself or an ally far distances with him. Not the most pleasant type of traveling, but it gets the job done. There's always going to be some way to abuse him, honestly. Take for example the 0 CS Senna trend that started recently. Tamer Kench once again is a champion that can be played top. He uses gold well and is intended to be a champion that can be played in both high and low economy roles. It's extremely difficult to balance. If you increase his late game scaling, you'd have to push back his power as a support significantly. Make his early game better, well, he might just become the most oppressive top lane to ever exist. Since it's rather recent, let's talk a little bit more about that Senna trend. Tamer Kench gets almost all the farm bot lane while Senna basically supports him. You end up with a really jacked Tamer Kench support, and you might as well consider him an under-leveled top laner. My boy Aphelios has too many weapons. While they might be able to tune the numbers and nerf whatever weapons are too good, they can't change the fact that Aphelios can basically do everything. His weapons selection allows him to adapt to any situation. For example, if he needs more range to play fights safely, he can hold on to Calibrum for dear life, holding it as a secondary until needed. When he needs CC or lifesteal, he basically either holds Gravitum or Severum respectively. Basically, Aphelios has any answers to any situation he could find himself in. One of his 5 lunar weapons should be the answer to the predicaments that he finds himself in. At the end of the day, Aphelios is a utility marksman who can also deal incredible amounts of damage. Whether it's dealt to single target or multiple, he has the capability to even decide that. Laning against him is like being under duress. Yumi removes one of the core fundamentals from the game altogether. Playing her removes 50% of League's gameplay. She's non-interactive most of the time and literally becomes untargetable as long as she hides inside an ally. A champion being untargetable makes the game extremely frustrating to play against. After all, League of Legends involves a lot of fighting and trying to slay each other. Yet, when we see this whimsical cat hiding inside one of her allies, it removes this ability altogether. You have to go through one of her allies first, and even then you're not even guaranteed a kill, since Yumi can just choose another host. Like some symbiotic parasite, Yumi skitters away and continues to remain a nuisance. Many players think Yumi is easy, but even those who think that she isn't have to agree with this. She's extremely difficult to deal with. Her counterplay isn't extremely clear, and in fact it's quite niche. A pick like Poppy can nullify Yumi's escape altogether, but there are a few others who can shut her out completely. You just need some way to disincentivize her from jumping from one ally to another. Overall, this requires a lot of changes to normal gameplay and sometimes isn't possible altogether. Again, we're not trying to make out Yumi as this unstoppable monstrosity of an OP pick. She's simply one that is going to be forever unbalanced because of her game design. If she's ever too strong, she's gonna feel obscenely unfair to play against, which is why she's a champion whose numbers will always teeter towards the lower end. Strong and competitive weakens solo queue. How many times have you ever heard this one before? Picks like Silas, Calista, and Akali definitely fill that niche. We've got another one for you guys with Aatrox. He's made some progress, but this guy is one tough case. Prior to his rework, he was the ultimate snatch check champion. He jumped on you and then gained a bunch of bonus attack speed and smacked you to death. If you couldn't kill him fast enough, he would just lifesteal all of his health back and you'd lose the fight. His rework shifted a lot of his power around, but still aimed to retain his iconic self-resurrection. That was also a mistake, and now we have Aatrox, a sad shell of his former glory. No revive, no insane 1v1 potential, and a mediocre split pushing. So why is this guy who's held a 47% win rate in solo queue for months now still not getting any buffs? He's still too good in competitive play. Aatrox is a safe pick that deals plenty of damage and hard carries team fights. He has an insane amount of healing to his kit, meaning that he fills a drain tank role pretty well. A champion that's safe, tanky, deals a lot of damage, and provides crowd control is just too good for the pros to pass up. Because of this, it's impossible to buff him to the point of solo queue players can lock him in as an ideal pick. Can someone tell me how many Ryze reworks have gone through? Ryze has been reworked way more than I have been rejected, which is a countless amount of times. Ryze has been a tough guy to balance for all the years League has been around. What's wrong with him currently is that his machine gun nature makes him extremely difficult to balance. He's always teetering on a thin thread. A little too strong and he'll one-shot your team. A little too weak and he's as useful as a caster minion. There have been various number of changes that he's had. He lost his shield as that made him a little bit too oppressive, but as a result, Ryze is now quite fragile. Finding that balance is extremely difficult, and players in solo queue are really facing the aftermath of this. He currently holds a 45% win rate across all ranks, but we know that he's still a plausible pick in competitive play. Somehow the pros always manage to sneak him in there. Azir is in a similar situation with Ryze. He deals so much damage and it's really difficult to keep him under control. Dealing a lot of damage is an understatement, actually. When Azir gets out of control, he takes control of game single-handedly. On top of being one of the strongest mages in the game, Azir also has a decent amount of mobility, crowd control, and self-peel. If the numbers are ever slightly off, then we get a monstrosity that can 1v9 games single-handedly. He has too many tools in his arsenal, and thus this is why he's in such a weak place right now. Balance always has to teeter on the safer side to make sure that he doesn't go crazy on Summoner's Rift. Otherwise, he'll also end up as another pick or ban in competitive play. Finally, let's talk about Ornn. So what makes Ornn so hard to balance is his passive. The rest of his kit is fine and unique even. He can break terrain created by his opponents, and there's counterplay to his ultimate as well, if you're in range to stop him at least. In a way, his passive breaks the game, however. For one thing, he makes all of his other teammates stronger. Theoretically, you would want to make Ornn weaker to compensate, but every game is going to be a little bit different. He has 4 other teammates that could be in any combination of champions, so those item upgrades might be a different amount of impact every single game. A nerf to Ornn to balance him would be too much in some games and too little in others. As a result, it's really tough to tinker with his numbers. On top of this, Ornn is able to buy items without ever leaving lane. Kind of crazy, as no other champions can do this. This can make playing versus him extremely difficult. When you feel like you're finally winning, he randomly builds some health or mana and all your hard work seems to be for nothing.
And that's going to conclude this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys liked what you saw, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to see more content such as this, make sure you ring that notification bell. And if you want to have a community to stick by during these tough times, ProGuides.com and the live stream with Irene is where to go. Now, with all that being said, I hope you guys stay safe, I hope you guys stay healthy, and I'll see you guys on the Rift and in the comment section down below. And hopefully on my TikTok, @Nathan_ING.